Hey everyone, my name is RC and I'm a Photoshop expert, author, educator, and photographer looking to make myself stand out with the images that I make. To do this, I print on aluminum with Image Wizards. The images that I print here have an incredible quality to them. It feels kind of like 3D, popping out of the frame. The durability is second to none and the customer service is just top notch. The images on my and my clients' walls look like windows into another world, and that leaves an impression that is extremely hard to beat. Now, I wanted to share with you some information that will help you take the guesswork out of your process and get the very best prints from Image Wizards. Today I want to talk to you about how to be able to make some adjustments in color when you're working inside of Photoshop. So, two assumptions I'm making. You're using Photoshop and you are using a RAW file. So, let's go ahead and go inside of my sample here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the DNG file that I'm going to be working with and I'm going to throw it inside of Photoshop. Once I do that, it's going to open it inside of Camera Raw because obviously it's a RAW file. Now, before we do any of this stuff, it's probably a good idea for us to talk a little bit about color space and what we work with here. When you're working inside of color space, it's basically your available amount of color. Think of it as almost kind of like if I gave you a sheet of paper, and this is an oversimplification, but if I gave you a sheet of paper and I said you can paint with 1,000 crayons, if you could do that, the paintings that you would make, if you used all 1,000, the colors would be very, very nuanced, right? Because you have so many colors to choose from. The amount of crayons that you have in your crayon pack is the range of color that you can work with, and that's generally known as a gamut. So 1,000 crayons would be a lot, and that's usually like a pro photo color space. And we're talking millions of colors, so this is just oversimplified. Wide color range, wide gamut. Now, if you bring it into a smaller gamut, the next smaller gamut that you generally run into is something like Adobe RGB 1998. So it's a smaller color space compared to ProPhoto. Now, small crayons, let's say 500 crayons, right? The colors that you can make are still beautiful, but maybe in the extremes, the colors aren't going to be as nuanced. The smallest of that still that you would run into is something called sRGB, and you see that a lot for web stuff. So smallest amount of colors there, still great color that you can produce, but not as much range as something like ProPhoto. Now, Image Wizards uses Adobe RGB 1998 for a lot of the stuff that they do, and it's good for you to know that because if you're coming out of Lightroom or if you're doing any kind of editing by default, you'll notice that the files are sometimes always set as ProPhoto. You'll see that down here. Inside of Camera Raw, if you look, this one's set to Adobe RGB, but if you click on it, you can change the color space right there. So I would have it set up for ProPhoto RGB. That's going to be your normal setup. Now, if you ever want to change that, you can go ahead and then just click right here. And once you have that clicked, go down to the color space section and select Adobe RGB 1998. That would be a way for you to make sure that you have the right one. So this is going to be the spot for you to do that. Now, let's just say that you didn't do that. Let's say that you selected ProPhoto and you click OK. Now, any file that you open from here is going to be using that wide color space, those 1,000 crayons. You want to make sure that you tune this down and you make adjustments to that smaller color space. To do that, go under your View menu and you're going to notice that there's a section here called Proof Setup. And what that does is it works with proof colors and goes, all right, simulate what a different color space is going to look like. On the proof setup, I would select custom, and in this case, I can select a different color space. I'm in ProPhoto, but I want you to tell me what it looks like in Adobe RGB. I'm in ProPhoto, I want you to tell me what it looks like in sRGB. So in this case, select Adobe RGB and click OK. Under View, you'll see that you're in proof colors here, and you'll also see that right here at the very top, it's telling you that you're also using Adobe RGB as a proof. Now, you can go back and forth between these to see the different before and afters, see if there's any big color shift. If you want to see the actual areas that are problem areas, right, that's the warnings, the gamut warnings, you can always just select gamut warning. And now when you toggle between the two, you should be able to see anything that's going to cause an individual problem. And then you will make adjustments to contrast or saturation and things like that. Once you have that all set, you can just go ahead and just convert this file into a specific color space by going to Edit And under Edit, go to Convert to Profile. That's going to take whatever your source color space is, convert it to the color space that you want, and in this case, I want it to be Adobe RGB 1998. Make sure that you click Perceptual. It's going to be probably your best option without getting into a giant conversation about it. And click OK. Now that that's done, all we have to do is just do a File Save As. I'm going to navigate to an area. Make sure that you save it as a TIFF. Largest possible size that you can send, no compression. Clicking OK, you're good to go. And from here, you can go through the order process like we did before, right? Select your size, select your frame. I like frame to edge. You gotta check out the white Ultra Gloss, it's really good. Wire mount for hanging, but the most important part is although you've set up the color and you've looked at it, make the extra investment. Make sure you get a proof setup. They're amazing at it. And 9 out of 10 times, you're gonna be really happy with what you get, but for a little bit extra, you're gonna get 2 plates, and one of them is gonna show you color and the other one's gonna show you detail. Take that extra time to see that, and then you don't have to worry about it at all. So make sure you take a look at this. Go through the process, and in no time flat, you're gonna have yourself an amazing print. For more information on this, make sure that you go to imagewizards.com. My name is RC, thanks for watching.